Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. First off, I'd like to start by thanking everyone for subscribing. I got a few subscribers last time and I got some very nice comments on the Living Stereo video, so I decided to continue on a more classical related theme. And today I thought that I would discuss a few newer recordings, so things that were recorded past 2000 but are audiophile level quality. And you can decide whether you like them or not. I'll try to explain, the pieces are all great, but I thought I would try to explain how the sound quality compares to some of the more well-known recordings, such as the older 50s, 60s, Decas, Living Stereos, and other such pressings. So first thought I'd start off with one that I have less pressings of, but they are known as Tacet recordings. This is one of their records. This is the best of 2012. Tacet, I believe, is a German audiophile company. They use entirely tube-based gear, and I'll take out this record here. We have the gatefold. It's a bunch of great recorded classical pieces, including some Elgar, Mozart, Flute Quartet, Dvorak, Defala, Bach, Brahms, some Beethoven string trios, things like that. And you know that they're a good audiophile label when they actually show the equipment that they were using to record. So here we have a tube tape recorder, a Telefunken M10, some more detailed, and then inside you get a lot more detail on the way that they recorded their releases. I believe that this was released in 2018. It has a total of 51 minutes. Again, it has a lot of pieces. I'd say it's a very great place to start with Tacet because it gives you a large variety of different styles of pieces that you can get into. It's 180 grams. This was released in 2018, but Best of Tacet 2012. So all of these were recorded in 2012. A lot of the times they use the Polish Chamber Philharmonic Orchestra. Now, I'm no expert on interpretations and such, but I can tell you that it sounds great. The difference between this pressing and some older audiophile pressings is it has more of a clean sound. Even though they're using old tube-based recording mechanisms and these old styles of microphones, I think they refurbished actually a lot of these older microphones. It is kind of cleaned up and it sounds fantastic, but it has that more of a studio feel rather than that concert feel. So if you're looking for pieces that are more kind of analytical, I would say the word, for each different type of instrument that you can hear in the room, I'd say that these are great. They have, don't get me wrong, they have some of that live element where it has good spacing, so you can hear that depth back and forth. It has a good sound stage, so you can separate the violins from the violas and the different instruments. It doesn't have that same charm that the old recordings had, but it still sounds fantastic. And I have two more that I would also recommend. One is Beethoven's Symphony No. 7, and on the back here you can see the microphone that they used, and they even advertise it as tube only. This is Beethoven's Symphony 7. I believe this was in 2006. And again, it uses the Polish Chamber Philharmonic Orchestra. Again, sounds great. I found, I believe, all of these in my local record store in Toronto, Canada. So, keep a lookout for them. They aren't too expensive. Not many people know about them. And as from what I was looking on Discogs, not many people have them in their collection. And they sound great, and they're kind of hard to find, but you can find them. They're not impossible. And then another one, the third one that I have is Beethoven's Symphonies 1, 2, and 8, the lesser known ones, but still sounds great. This one's 2 LPs. Also on the back, ones that I do not own are Beethoven Symphonies 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, as I just showed, and 9. So they have the whole collection of the Beethoven symphonies, and I believe they also have some other pieces. So this Best of Tacet 2012 was one of them, and they also had Best of Tacet 2010, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but they have a lot of these. So a great label. They aren't super expensive for the quality. The vinyl is good. Great sound quality. Definitely recommend Tacet or Tacet. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but now I find Tacet to be more consistent through their releases. I only have 3, but all 3 have been, I would say, similar in sound quality. Even though the pieces are different, they're all very similar. The next label I'm going to show you that's Newer Recordings is either sometimes a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 even sound quality recordings, and sometimes they are lower in quality. And I am specifically talking about Chasing the Dragon. And this is an 11 out of 10 record. This is Vivaldi's Four Seasons, done by Interpreti Veneziani, and it's a direct-to-disc recording. And direct-to-disc, if you don't know, is just basically they record one side entirely live, as you would say, so there's no overdubbing, there's no cutting, anything. What they play is being cut directly onto the metal work that's going to stamp the record. So in between the tracks, you can actually hear the flippings of the papers and stuff. So this is a direct-to-disc. This sounds absolutely fantastic. Tacet has a few, little blemishes and whatever. As I said, it's not as live sounding and whatever. This sounds absolutely fantastic. It was produced by this guy and I believe his wife, Mike Valentine. They're a UK company. You can see at the bottom, chasingthedragon.co.uk. The Four Seasons sounds absolutely incredible. If you were to grab, the first one I would recommend grabbing from Chasing the Dragon would be this one. I believe that you can get it over at Acoustic Sounds. Just look that up in Google. That's where they sell all the analog productions, the living stereos that I covered in my last video. And this one sounds absolutely fantastic. It's great. I know that in the 60s, the Baroque pieces, the style of music, they didn't really know how it was meant to be played, so they kind of did a more romantic interpretation of it. So a lot of vibrato and things that weren't really common practice in the Baroque period. And later on, they realized that the style of playing was different, from my understanding. By no means am I an expert, but later on they figured out how it was actually played. Unfortunately, by the time they figured that out, in whenever after late 50s, early 60s, the recording quality just went straight down for a lot of classical recordings. And so with this one, this Four Seasons, you get the greatest interpretation of the Baroque pieces along with just great sound quality. Really fantastic one. Definitely recommend it. And another one that's on a similar note is this double LP, Vivaldi in Venice. This one is not direct to disc, but it sounds great. It's a live concert. You can see this is the crowd here, and it includes some Vivaldi violin concertos, some Corelli, some Tartini, some really old Baroque style music, but also sounds great. It is live, and I read a review that one person was actually at this concert, and when they played back the recording, it was very, very similar and realistic. And it's not as good, I would say, as the Four Seasons one, due to the fact that the Four Seasons one was in studio and this one's a live recording. It's not direct to disc, many factors, but it is a great kind of live piece. It's really atmospheric and definitely a great one. Now, I said that the highs of this label are high and the lows are not so great. And I recently picked up 3 records from Chasing the Dragon. One of their recent releases, another direct cut recording, Beethoven's Pathetique and Moonlight Sonatas. So this is just piano. It sounds all right. I find that the piano is a bit muffled. It doesn't sound as lively and realistic as you would want it to. The way that it was recorded, I don't think it lives up to the, I want to say hype, but the sound quality that the other 2 releases I showed you did. And it was fairly expensive. You can buy these at Acoustic Sounds. A lot of these Chasing the Dragons you can buy at Acoustic Sounds, and I believe you can actually get Tacet as well at Acoustic Sounds. So if you're in the US or Canada, because the shipping from the US to Canada through their website is very reasonable, I think it's only like $19. So just get a couple records together and then kind of split that shipping cost. You can get them all there. Through the US you can buy them, but this Pathétique Moonlight Sonatas, not really, you know, they sound great, they sound good, don't get me wrong, but they're just not up to the level of the other two releases. And on a similar note, I have this live Beethoven series, 2 recordings. One is Symphony 5, the Locrian Ensemble, and Piano Concerto 5, Emperor. I have a lot of pressings of Beethoven Symphony 5, including in RCA Monteau, as well as a Karajan recording. And this one is just, I don't know if it's the live feeling, maybe it's the style of Beethoven compared to Vivaldi, the way that the recording methods were used. It's just, it doesn't have that same like dynamic, that oomph that you want to hear when you have, when you're listening to Beethoven's 5, right? That's very thunderous in a lot of the areas, including the first and last movements. So, and this just doesn't really have that. The Emperor sounds okay. I have the London box set of Ashkenazi playing all 5 piano concertos, a narrow band London, so in the 70s, and those are well in good condition, so they're pretty easy to find, they're cheap, and they sound decent compared to older Deccas. But even that like lower budget Decca recording by Ashkenazi sounds better than this Emperor concerto, I would say. And to add more negatives, I don't want to completely talk poorly about the company. These are okay recordings, but the vinyl quality on this Emperor was not up to par. When you're listening to classical, you really need quiet vinyl. And unfortunately, the copy that I received was crackly, so be wary of that when you are buying some Chasing the Dragon records. And another record, to leave it on a high note, that I would show from Chasing the Dragon, it's not classical, it's jazz. It's a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald with Claire Teal and the Sid Lawrence Orchestra. This is another direct-to-disc recording, and it is fantastic. If you are into kind of that big band jazz, Claire Teal has that kind of really old, like Ella Fitzgerald, because it's a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald, that kind of old school voice. It sounds fantastic. Another one I would recommend, really dynamic, powerful with that big band. Just what you wanted to hear, similar to kind of that dynamic, those dynamics you wanted to hear on the Beethoven, but they just weren't there. And this one really delivers on those aspects. So yeah, that's Tacet and Chasing the Dragon, newer recordings in an all analog audiophile setting. I hope that this video was helpful. I have noticed that there are very limited reviews and comments on both of these labels on the sound quality. So, you know, I bit the bullet for a lot of these to see how they sounded. I won a few and I lost on a few of them, but that's the way that it goes sometimes. Maybe I'll sell them later, who knows? Because I doubt that I'll listen to some of them very consistently. But yeah, hopefully this helped, and thank you for watching.